Melosi Ngala, who's with Corruption Watch and is a researcher with that entity. To both our guests, thanks for your time. It's lovely to have you on the program. Melusi, I wonder if we can begin with just unpacking what the law says happens next. My understanding is that if the subpoena is essentially effective, the president has 7 more days in order to provide what's described as a substantive reply to the public protector. That's been seen in some quarters as some kind of backdoor extension.
Good morning, and thank you for having us. It's not a backdoor extension. It's merely the Public Protector Office complying with legislation and having to force, essentially, the president to comply with its request. So, yes, in a way, after having said to the president that he had a couple more weeks to submit his responses to the initial 31 questions that were sent to him, the Public Protector Office then saw it fit to say that after not following through with what we had asked you, now we are simply telling you that we are forcing you to do so, and you have 7 days to comply with that request.
In the statement from the Public Protector's Office, Stephanie Fick, she also mentions that she won't be commenting about this in public in the event that, doing that might jeopardize the investigations that are ongoing. With that in mind, if the president does respond in 7 days, should his answers be made public?
Sure. I'm in 2 minds. I think on the one hand, while the investigation is ongoing, let's give room for the public protector or the deputy public protector to do her job. Let the investigators do what they're supposed to do. And then once that is done and there's a report and there's findings, I think obviously that needs to be made public unless, the normal, unless there's really something that can be made known. But I think in this instance, I don't think so. And on the other hand, the secrecy behind this whole debacle is really what I think is getting to people. And, whether I agree with, is this type of incident where you have someone that laid a criminal complaint, I don't even know if all the facts that are in there, whether, you can believe it, put that to the side, I think the secrecy is just getting to people. So maybe it is a good idea that as the progress goes along, to just inform South Africans as to what is going on. But if we hear that the public protector just wants to finish her investigation, I also understand that, because that's where allegations and hearsay and all of that comes from. Let's give her the room to do what she's supposed to do, and then we look forward to the findings and recommendations.
Yeah, Melusi, I wonder how you see this issue, because it's been quite contentious, isn't it? I mean, this idea of whether or not the president has been forthcoming and transparent enough about an incident he's confirmed has taken place, but hasn't gone far enough in divulging the details. If he does respond within the 7-day deadline, are you expecting those responses to be public?
Well, what's most concerning about this situation, in fact, not only concerning, bitterly disappointing, is the fact that the president asked for the extension, didn't live up to what he had asked for, and now he finds himself being subpoenaed after making an additional request to say that, I'm asking for an extension. It's concerning on the basis that the president has not taken the country, the people that he has sworn to lead and to be transparent to, and most importantly, be accountable to. He hasn't taken us, the people, into his confidence and said, this is what the situation is, and so on and so forth. If anything, we've had a lot of political rhetoric coming from him and his camp about him not being bullied, and then you have to wonder whether is he saying he's not going to be bullied by us, the people, because it's the people that are asking for this accountability. It's the people that are asking for transparency. We're living in the most extraordinary times. These are times when people perceive corruption to be rife, and to themselves that everything should be scrutinized. And if you're going to commit to that and act contradictory to that, that's what is most puzzling to people. So with that said, you know, the Public Protector's Office needs to do its work in accordance with the law. That's the most important. Following which, of course, they need to assist other institutions within the democratic dispensation to make sure that at least this matter is dealt with comprehensively within our legal and constitutional framework.
Yeah. You know, Stephanie, Melusi is highlighting, you know, issues that are of concern as we digest what's currently taking place. The difficulty, of course, is that if you are not forthcoming around the details around an issue like this, you really do leave room for speculation and conspiracies, and that's arguably exactly what's taken place over the last few weeks. Part of the questions being raised is, if Arthur Fraser, whatever the motive might have been, if he didn't come forward and say something like this has taken place, would the president have actually been open about this?
What worries me, and let's move back a little bit. I think the answer to your question is probably not. What is a bit worrying is that I don't always understand. Listen, if a politician, if any government official, if anybody makes himself guilty, him or herself guilty of corruption, hopefully the police will investigate, or any crime for that matter. Hopefully the police will investigate. National Prosecuting Authority will decide whether there is a crime, and ethically there will be disciplinary steps, etc., etc. What worries me about this incident is that really, like Melusi has said, there's been a rhetoric around this whole debacle, and there's a part of me that wants to question, why are we still talking about it? I know it's the president. Like I said, if someone needs to be held accountable, they should be. But there hasn't been. I mean, there's a lot of allegations of money laundering. I don't see how the money comes from the fiscus. So, it does seem that it is private money. We have gone through, state capture. We have gone through a state-owned entity like Eskom that lost billions. We throw that word around as if it's, rice. It's an enormous amount of money. Where are those prosecutions, and where are the voices to say? But we need to keep it in the forefront, and we need accountability. If you then weigh it up against a president that may or may not have had an enormous amount of money on his farm, hopefully SARS may have a look at it, because one wonders whether, if that is in fact the truth, whether tax is being paid. But there hasn't been allegations that the money actually comes from the fiscus and that the money belongs to the South African people. So, there is that part. So if I may just say that I sometimes think that this is being pulled out of proportion, and one wonders if this is really not for political gain. Which I want to say, South Africans is going through a very rough time. Economically, I think we've been let down by politicians, we've been let down by government, local governments are falling apart, and what we're discussing is, the secrecy of the president, which is important, don't get me wrong.
Right, and that's exactly what I wanted us to be clear about. I mean, I hope this is not us downplaying what's in the public domain, especially when you consider the concessions that the president has made in light of the seriousness of the allegations being made. So, yes, the money might have not come from the fiscus, but if it was anything within the region of $4 million, there are concerns that the president may have been in breach of tax laws in this country by having forex on his property. We're told that the suspects around this robbery may have been tortured, in some instances paid for their silence. If this is stuff that's happening with the president's knowledge, surely we can walk and chew at the same time. Have in context the seriousness of state capture, while also calling for answers at the very least from the president's office.
I hear you. And like I said, if the president needs to be held accountable, hopefully he will be. And hopefully it will be swift, and more swiftly than what we've seen with state capture and other transgressors of the laws of South Africa. What is just concerning is that, and I think that is the point that I want to make, is that we need to be extremely careful that we are not, swallowed by a sort of a political agenda. Because we have the allegations, and yes, fair enough, if you have to believe the allegations, some of the allegations doesn't make sense, in all honesty, if you read the statement, but be that as it may.
Like what?
Is that, we haven't seen investigations, we haven't seen first-hand accounts of what really happened there. Yes, the president should take us into his confidence, but all I can say is hopefully the police will not let us down in this instance and investigate this as a matter of urgency, and that SARS, and although SARS keeps tax information confidential, that they will launch a full-scale investigation, and that if the president is to be held accountable, that will happen fairly quickly.
Which parts of these allegations, in your mind, Stephanie, think don't make sense?
Well, it's you know what, I'm going to talk about this from a bit of a personal point of view, from my background. I was a prosecutor, and as a prosecutor, I can't speak on behalf of the NPA, please. I mean, there might be prosecutors that will differ from me. But if I've received that docket, I can promise you there will be a long list of further investigations, and that the way the affidavit was drafted it's leaving you with more questions than answers. So if I take myself out of being a South African citizen, and I'm trying to be objective, and I look at that, and I look at keeping in mind that, only once you're on accused, you are considered not guilty until proven guilty. Otherwise, you're a normal person, and we all have certain rights. And I think what is extremely unfair, if we take out the fact that the allegation was made against the sitting president, which on the one hand is quite serious, if this was made against you, Ayanda, as either the prosecutor or your legal representative, I would have fought tooth and nails for your rights, because the affidavit is actually there's can be slanderous. So if we take out of the equation who the person is against whom the allegations is made, I think some of the people that is shouting the loudest would have a problem if someone made that allegations against them.
All right, Minister, let me get your take on that. I mean, can we even remove the fact that this is allegations made against the head of state, or is that actually at the heart of what makes this incredibly serious, actually?
Perceptions, when we talk about corruption, really matter, because that speaks to issues of confidence, issues of trust, but further to that, it's also about ethical behavior, honesty, and being a moral, upright, quote-unquote, person. And if you're going to be occupying the most important office in society, it's incumbent upon you to at least live up as best as you can to those principles and values. So it's harder to divorce the individual, because you went into that office on that political ticket, claiming to all and sundry that you will be transparent, you will be accountable, and you'll be honest, and you will care, because ultimately it's about caring about the image of the country, the image of the office, after you have declared that, you know what, your predecessor was a person who did not have integrity, essentially. So under that guise, it's very important that you as the sitting head do not be implicated in criminal matters or corruption matters, whether private or otherwise, as far as we are concerned, because those are the issues that are going to come to light when people, investors, quote unquote, have to make decisions about whether they're going to trust you as a country, or they think the environment is fine, well, whether the environment is okay for them to make economic investments in you. So it affects a lot. It affects how it puts into question how your processes work when it comes to prosecutions and investigations.
very much indeed for weighing in. To both our guests, we appreciate your time. Stephanie Fake is the head of legal with the organization and doing tax abuse. Also joining us there is Malusi Ngalo, who's with Corruption Watch. He's a researcher there. Once again, thanks very much indeed to both of you. At 28 minutes to